So, what are the worst distortion patterns of all?
Yeah. To me, it's funny, because we each have our own individual distortion patterns, right? Like what you run in terms of your distortions are obviously very different from mine because we have different lineage, we have different wounding, we have different past lives, so they're different. But the worst distortion patterns of all, to me, are what I call foundational distortion patterns. And what I mean by that are distortion patterns that are intertwined with the human experience, which relate to or stem from the coming down through the veil of forgetting, okay, where we disconnect or forget that we are infinite, indestructible consciousness, integral to the oneness, and the oneness integral to us. So
which we chose.
Which we chose.
Right.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, we absolutely chose to have this experience. We wanted to have the experience in the embodiment. It provides a tremendous amount of opportunity. And in the coming into the embodiment and in that forgetting, it's a massive forgetting. Just imagine, like, for eternity that you are infinite, indestructible consciousness, right? That you're integral to everything and everything is part of you. And then suddenly you're not.
It's a big jump.
It's a big jump. It's it's a big deal, And so a lot of our feeling of disconnect from the divine stems from that moment where we pierce through the veil of forgetting. And so just to remind people, based on something that you and I have talked about before, is the veil of forgetting is, that's actually quite light. It's more like a wall, okay? So it's like, it's pretty significant. No, the veil sounds like it's fluffy and light.
Nice and airy.
Yes, it's not really.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it's this layer that you come through that we all agree to. Yeah. As we come into the embodiment. Now, why do we agree to this? We agree to the veil of forgetting because when you are in the embodiment and you have come through the veil of forgetting, you forget this massive thing that we just mentioned. Well, there's a lot then to transcend. And in that struggle to transcend and to remember our true nature as infinite, indestructible consciousness, there is a tremendous amount of growth and momentum that's given to us on the non-embodied realm. Okay, because you exist not just here, you exist as also this much larger infinite consciousness, right? Indestructible consciousness that's having this experience, and then you're just a fragment of this in the embodiment, right? So it allows that consciousness to increase its resonance level because you, as a fragment of it, as an embodied fragment of it, are experiencing all of this obstacle, all of this challenge, all of this like stuff that you have to overcome, and then overcoming it, which is pretty spectacular.
So that's why we chose to overcome the struggle.
Yeah.
And to feel the effects of growth.
Yeah, and to remember that remember our true nature. Because there's so much keeping us from it, right?
Right.
Like we think we're finite. We think that we're just this physical body.
Yeah.
We don't really have much visibility into death. You know what I mean? Like we don't know.
Yeah.
And so because there's so much unknown, right? Like to return to that state where you feel your brilliance, where you feel that expansiveness, that awe, that like connection to something bigger because you are that something bigger. That is huge because there's so much challenge in what I said in terms of the finiteness, the thoughts, the emotions, the pain body, the ego mind, all this sort of stuff.
So why would we want to do that though?
Yeah. Because like I said, there's so much to transcend. And even in like the pain of it, right? The challenge of it, there's something kind of glorious about it too, right? It's like a very human experience. It's like, why do you want to go to Paris?
Got it.
You go to Paris because you want to eat baguette, and you want to experience the beauty there, the architecture and the design and all that sort of stuff, right? Like most people, well, many people who travel want to go and immerse themselves in that experience because it's different from what they experience.
So our spirit wants to immerse itself in the experience of human.
Exactly.
Yes, because I know I always go back to this in my mind, like spirit can't touch things.
That's right.
And smell things and taste things and talk to, like it's a whole different, it's just pure bliss. Yeah. Versus like getting to do these cool human things.
Yeah. Or even like grief. Okay.
Right.
Which is terrible, right? Honestly, because it's a horrible feeling. But that like the rawness of that grief, you don't feel that on spirit level. When you're disembodied consciousness, it's kind of floating around. It's kind of diffuse. You know what I mean? Like emotion's not as like, as like visceral. Yeah, exactly. Or like even like heartbreak, which can be really traumatic for people, right? I'm not saying it's glorious. I'm not suggesting wallow in it. But there is this like, like for example, your first love, right? When you break up with them and it's like so terrible, right?
Yeah.
And it's like very, very painful. but the pain of it, the like getting over it, all of that's so human. You know what I mean?
It's better to have loved and lost than to never love at all.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's true though, right?
Yeah.
Because you get all that experience, and and I'm not even talking about the positive emotion, right? And like there are moments where like of like courage, right? That people, well, they do something like extraordinarily moving. It's such a small thing, but yet we can be like there's this little thing that I saw. I'm not on social media very often. There was this little clip that caught my eye. It looked like Brazil or something like this. But this little boy was out with a cloth. He was probably like 5, okay, cleaning cars, like in a traffic jam, right, for money, right? So he would spray it and then he would wipe. Anyway, so he's standing there and he's like wiping like the back door of a car. And the window rolls down and there's a boy who is about his age. Okay, so that's okay. And so these boys are looking at each other. They're the same age, but very different. One's in a BMW and one's cleaning the car. Okay, very different. But the boys don't really know that. So anyway, the boy inside the car gives the boy outside the car like a little car that he's playing with. So the boy takes it and he rolls it on the ground and he gives it back to the boy. And the boy says, "Oh, I've got one too." So they start playing cars like outside the window. And then he's got a truck. So he gives the kid the truck. So the truck, he plays with the truck, and then the little boy realizes it's not his. So he gives it back. And the little kid pushes it away. He's like, "No, you take it." And so he's like, "No, you take it." So the little kid takes the truck.
The little kid in the BMW.
Gives the truck to the little kid, right? Yeah. So it's the little kid in the car, little boy outside with the cloth cleaning, tries to give the toy back.
Got it.
I'm sorry.
And he's like, "No, keep it."
He's like, "No," he pushes it away back to the boy cleaning. He's like, "No, keep it." So the boy now has this truck, and he's like, "Oh," so he disappears, like off camera, right? And he comes back with this little bag of fried plantains to give him something, you know, like he got a gift. Yeah. So he's sharing. He's like, "What?" So then what does the little boy in the car do? He opens the bag of plantains and they're sitting there snacking together. I was like, what? That's such a beautiful exchange. And you know who's filming it? Not the mother. It's another motorist just stuck in traffic who's filming this, like inside their car. Yeah. There's this beautiful little exchange. They're just sharing.
Oh, what a perfect little
story. And then the car, eventually the traffic moves.
Yeah.
And the guy outside is like waving to his friend, you know, because he's just like his friend's leaving. But even in that, it's like sad, you know, because he's like, "Oh, I had a friend, he was leaving," you know.
Yes.
But even, do you understand that kind of poignancy?
Yes.
Do you have that as a disembodied consciousness? Not really. Not the same level.
No.
You know, there's like something about that is so moving.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that can help people, just that little story, like help people move through their emotions and to kind of honor them, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Emotions are not a bad thing.
Exactly.
They can be really beautiful if you just kind of witness them and allow them to be, just feel them. And then they will naturally move on.